just tendered into St. Peter's Port in Guernsey. This is it. I have a couple of walking tours planned today. We'll see what happens.
About 10 to 15 minutes.
Good.
On the way back, instead of coming all the way to the Albert Pier, you would go to the Castle Emplacement Walkway and you would get to the castle. So I would say you've got time to do the military museum and then move on to the castle to get there for 12 o'clock for the noonday gun.
Okay, we're on our self-guided walking tour. Left Jane behind because it was getting too high. All this walled stuff, this is all the university, apparently. There's a princess cruise in with us too today. So this is Victoria Tower, and you can get the key and walk all the way up to the top, but I'm not sure I want to do that at the moment. This is the area called Candy Gardens. And Jane's down there somewhere. I'll go find her. Big place. This is the shopping street or high street, and many of the stores are closed. It's 12 of 12, thereabouts, and there's going to be gunshots at the castle. 12 o'clock, I'm heading there now. Hopefully I will be there in time.
Don't realize that it happened then.
What else is there to see after this?
You do it again? Just one shot?
That was so sweet.
Nope.
An event that took place here in this very castle. And this event was so catastrophic that it completely changed the appearance of Castle Cornet and led to tragic loss of life one dark, stormy winter's night in the year 1672. And think about it, my friends, in those days, there was no path or road connecting St. Peter Port with Castle Cornet. There was only a naturally formed causeway connecting outcrops of rocks, and this was only accessible at the lowest of spring tides. So the only safe way to get to the castle was by boat. I'd like you to imagine today that we are in the Garden of Plaisance, and this is a small gardened area just below the clock tower. And it is where the family we are going to hear about in the story would have spent many happy hours together. And my character, Ada, is visiting the castle for the first time in 15 years. Please do come in, there's still seating available at the front and a few sort of benches around the side. So, my friends, out to our story. There's a couple of seats here, and there's a few in the second row there, and one up at the front. The changes! I can scarcely believe it. Oh, no! Ah! You gave me such a start. What are you doing here? Are you visiting the castle too? Did you have a rough crossing? Oh, my boatman, God have mercy, we're so careless. My shoes are near ruined. I can't believe it is now 1687. 15 whole years since that terrible night. That night when lives were lost, loved ones lost here amongst the rubble and the ruins. I have come here today to prepare a visit for my Lady Jane. Oh, beg pardon, let me introduce myself. My name is Adele, and I am a lady-in-waiting to the two sisters, Alice and Jane Hatton. It is at the request of their young brother, Lord Christopher Hatton, that I have come here today to prepare for this visit. My Lady Jane's mind has been left deeply troubled since the events of that terrible night, and her brother hopes that a visit once more to the castle will help heal the ills in her mind. You see, my ladies and I were forced to come and live here on this desolate rock. Oh, we'd come from a very comfortable life in England, Kirby Hall in Northamptonshire. And we came to live here with my lady's young brother, Lord Christopher Hatton, and his family here at the castle. A few years before, their father, the Governor of Guernsey, also called Christopher Hatton, just to confuse the matters, was a rogue, and he gambled, and he squandered, and he drank away the family fortune. He even lost the dowries of his 3 daughters, so they never married, and he cut his son Charles off from the inheritance when he married Mary Lambert. Old Lord Hatton governed from afar. He never visited Guernsey. He never visited this castle. He never paid his bills. And he cheated and he lorded it over everyone, so much so that all the peoples of Guernsey hated and despised him. So, when he died, it was cause for much celebration. But he had brought shame on all the family, and all that was left was the governorship of Guernsey as his son Christopher's inheritance. As for my ladies, there was nothing at all left for them. So all they could do was accept the charity their young brother offered them, so that they could continue a life in reasonable comfort. And the lady in waiting, of course. The other sister, Mary, went into the religious life. She entered a convent in Paris, France. So, with the family fortune gone, all that was left was the governorship of Guernsey and this rock to live on. So, in 1670, all Christopher's family arrived. His young wife Cecily and their 2 children, and the little one she was carrying. His mother, the Dowager Duchess, the 2 sisters, Alice and Jane, the nursemaid, Mistress Willis, the servants, and the lady in waiting, of course. Oh, at first, young Christopher had a very difficult time. The townsfolk of St. Peter Port ignored him and were rude to him because they thought that he would behave in the same way as his father. But they soon changed their minds when they saw what a truly good man he was. Here at the castle, Christopher built new quarters for all of us. He built a brand new banqueting hall and a chapel, and he lived in the governor's residence, high up in the ancient citadel, next to the big round tower called the donjon, under which the ammunition was stored. Oh, I recall being here in this very garden where the Dowager Duchess would persuade Cecily to let the nursemaid bring the little ones into the garden to take the sea air. Oh, Mistress Willis never approved. She had thoughts that a sea fog would roll in and the fairies would come and take the little ones away and put a changeling in their place. Now, can you believe that? Oh, we were all so happy in them days, till that fateful night. That night, one dark, stormy winter's night, 2 days before the dawn of 1673, the wind began to howl. The seas were high around the castle, and the sound of the waves crashing on the shore was deafening. The heavens opened and the rains poured and it never stopped. We could hear the storm as a distant rumble, but we were not alarmed because we had become accustomed to the wild rantings of the weather living here on this desolate rock. But the storm grew closer and closer and louder and louder. Then out of this frenzy came the biggest flash to which I had borne witness. And there followed an explosion so big I feared my ears would burst. The buildings around us grumbled and groaned and gave way with an angry roar. What was happening? We could hear people screaming and shouting for help. We made our way outside, but we could scarcely breathe for the dust and the smoke. And when we looked up, all we could see were the roaring flames of where the donjon once stood, and rubble lay everywhere around us. Oh no. What we learned that night has been etched on our hearts forever. Mistress Willis was found dead in the nursery with baby Margaret in her arms. Not a scratch on the child, and yet the poor nurse was killed. Sergeant Cotton was found wandering the battlements. He nearly fell down a water well. The guards at first thought he was a ghost because he was as white and as naked as the day he was born. Poor Sir Christopher was blown onto a high wall. He told us later he didn't awaken until he felt a shower of hail upon his face. Now, can you believe that? Poor Sir Christopher. All he could do was call for Cecily. He offered £1,000 for her to be brought back to him, alive and well. But alas, it was in vain. She was found dead in the nursery, killed when the chimney fell on her. Oh, if only she'd stayed in her chamber, she might have survived. But she wanted to see her children. It was only natural that she should run to them. Poor Sir Christopher, my heart bled for him. They were so in love. His mother, the Dowager Duchess, was also killed. As for my ladies, Alice and Jane, they were sleeping in the same room, as was the custom, and a great beam fell between them. Oh, it was a miracle they survived. But it was some time before their calls for help were heard, and when at last they were heeded, a great hole had to be made in the rubble so that they could be dragged free before the flames engulfed them. Oh, the townsfolk of St. Peter Port were very generous. They gave my ladies clothing because their own had been torn to shreds in their rescue. 7 people died that night, 7 loved ones, including Mr. Prohl. Oh, it was horrible how he died. He was in the chamber at the end of the grand hall. I know he suffered a terrible death, although Christopher wouldn't tell me what actually happened. But we heard the servants whispering. Oh, it was dreadful, dreadful. I used to laugh and make fun of him because he was always rather vain and pleased with himself. But I felt guilty ever since because he didn't deserve to die in that way. A little later, we heard the alarm had been sounded to alert the folk of St. Peter Port. But a great cannon was fired, but they thought at first it was a ship that was in trouble because the wind carried the sound away from them. And when at last they realised it was the castle that needed help, they had to climb the walls because nobody had any keys to get in. Oh, here am I, telling you about the loved ones we have lost. God rest their souls. But let us give thanks that we've been blessed to live another day. Dear Sir Christopher remained in Guernsey until 1681, and he married the lovely Lady Frances. But see, the tide has turned. I must away and make preparations for my Lady Jane's visit. I can no longer stay with you good people. And I must ensure that Dorcas has made suitable preparations for my lady to step ashore. Good day, my good people, and fare thee well.
So it decided to rain again, and so it's raining. I'm sure it'll clear up again, but I'm going to go wander around here in the rain. are in St. Peter Port, Guernsey. You can see the town in the back. I actually walked all the way up to that tower back there. I'm now in the port, the fort, the castle. You can see the tender boats coming in. Our ship is out there somewhere. But anyway, I thought I'd show you what we're seeing here. It is raining slightly, although it was nice this morning, so still take pictures. See the ship out there? That's our Brilliance of the Seas. You can see the tenders coming in. There's people out there jet skiing, some people sailing. Just a gorgeous view. It's still spritzing, but I'll give you a 360-degree view from the top of the castle here. There's the port that we tendered into. There's the Brilliance of the Seas. There's another ship, I think it's Princess. And now we're back to where we started. Gorgeous. That's the cannon that was shot off at noon earlier today. It's an interesting bicycle. That's not a bicycle, it's a motorcycle. Interestingly decorated. That was Princess.